Thank you very much, Will, and to the Academy for inviting me to speak at this. And my focus, and for those of you that know me, you won't be surprised. My focus is on innovation and creating very large-scaled innovation ecosystems that will help build the innovation powerhouses in leveling up regions. And of course, those are all there to support building the new fourth industrial revolution, the green industrial revolution, the low carbon industries of the future that have been mentioned quite a few times already. Kate, you just talked about them briefly in what you were saying. Now, these opportunities don't come around very often. The last time we had an opportunity to build a new industrial revolution was 40 plus years ago. And it was by design that we in the UK decided not to really massively take part in that third industrial revolution. So actually, I found it interesting listening to you, Adrian, at the beginning with all of your charts in terms of the disparities in the north and the south. And of course, it was quite predictable that that would happen, because if you deindustrialize, mainly in your leveling up regions where those industries were creating the high productivity and the high wage jobs, and you replace them with lower paid service type jobs, which is exactly what we did. So the higher paid professional services jobs landed in London. More recently, we're pleased that some of them have landed in Leeds and Manchester and some of those cities, but predominantly we have low paid service jobs and call centers and these sorts of things. So really we missed out by design, and now we have an opportunity to take part by design. And what do we need to do in order to really take part in that fourth industrial revolution? Now, the good news is we do have a chance. You know, we spend a huge amount of money on research and development, 15 billion a year, and that's going to rise, we now know, to 20 billion. We were hoping it would be 22 a bit sooner, but it's going to be 20 billion. And that is good news. However, we also know that in terms of the combined R&D spend of industry, private sector and government, we lag a long way behind countries like South Korea, Japan, USA, China, Germany, France, etc. And that's mainly because we lack the private sector investment to match the government investment that is going in. And of course, part of that is that deindustrialization we saw. The huge local champions of ICI, of GEC, of Plessey, Ferranti, we all remember those names. Where are they now? Those were our R&D powerhouses, and countries that continued to play in the third industrial revolution retained more of those. In Germany, companies like Siemens that I used to run the operation for in the UK, but BASF and of course all of the major car manufacturers, etc. We lost many of those. And actually in the UK, the only two R&D labs of major companies that are in the global top 100 that are in the UK are GSK and AstraZeneca, the only two. And all of the others are somewhere else. So clearly, we need to find a way to create some more of those, and we need to encourage the inward investors, because actually most of our private sector R&D is driven by inward investing companies like the Siemenses, the Hitachis, the Teslas, the Amazons, the Googles, etc., etc. We need to encourage more of those to invest here in R&D. Now, the way to do this, I believe, is to create mega innovation ecosystems or clusters, which have real excellence, which have real power, and have real international reach, and therefore create industries that are highly innovative, highly productive, and can export. Now, to achieve that, there are 6 key criteria. And as a matter of fact, when I at Siemens was looking at where should I encourage Siemens to invest in the UK in R&D, it was these 6 criteria that we looked at. Now, luckily, I knew that quite a lot of these criteria would be covered by my previous speakers, so I'm only going to focus on 2. But I will just mention the other four. One of them is all about market demand and market creation, which I'm not going to focus on today. Very interesting and very important, though. We did it particularly well for the offshore wind industry. We do it less well for some of our other industries. We're not yet doing it well enough for the new electric vehicle market, for example, not doing it well enough for the hydrogen economy, but we know how to do it because we did it for the offshore wind industry. The second is our sort of our taxation and our general business support environment, which the UK does, generally okay in. We need a bit more long-termism, a bit more stability, but we do okay. The third area is regulation. The fourth area is research and innovation excellence, in which the UK does particularly well, actually. And now I move on to the areas which need a lot more work. And the one that I'm particularly going to focus on is on scale, 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 and focus, focus, focus. And this is what we do particularly badly in the UK. We know that just scaling on research is not going to get us to the 2.4%. We have to scale the translational research, the innovation aspects. We need to create a mega Innovate UK. Now, it's pleasing that we're increasing the funding to Innovate UK from 740 million up to $1 billion now, as per the last CSR. But it's still not enough to get us to 2.4%, and especially not if we don't really focus that innovation and we scale it on the key areas that we're going to create that innovation excellence in. I mean, I'll start with a good example, which is announced today, which is, of course, the small modular reactors. I think this is a particularly good area, although it's quite niche. And I think it's good for the UK because the UK has the IP held largely by Rolls-Royce, but also by the broader nuclear industry. And I think this is a good space where investing around about, I'm just looking for my numbers, I think it's 190 million of government money can be well matched by the private sector to create a new industry of the future. But if you look at many of the other areas, green hydrogen, where so far the UK's 10-point plan has positioned 240 million. Germany's government spend for green hydrogen schemes is 7 billion euros. If you go to the telecom sector and 5G, the UK is currently investing about 230 million into that space. Germany, 7 billion. And if you look at catapults overall, which I'm particularly passionate about as the chair of one, we have a CEO of another one, spoke earlier today. Hi, Stuart. We need to massively scale those to support these ecosystems. And in the UK, they're currently funded with about 240 million per year, hopefully going to rise. But if you compare that to Germany's Fraunhofers, that are funded at 2.8 billion per annum, we're just talking of different levels of numbers. So scale and focus, fundamentally important. And then the final point I was going to mention is the one that's already been covered, but I will just emphasize, is the one of policy coordination. And all of that previous list I put around of creating market demand regulation, creating these new innovation megaclusters, all of that needs coordination and it needs some long-termism. And we do that extremely badly. And the way not to go forward with all of this increased spend is to fragment the money even more and turn it all into a huge bidding exercise of regions bidding for pots of money in a very decentralized and a very central controlled process. But it's to strategically decide in which regions we want what clusters to thrive and flourish, and then to allocate money and to allow for devolved regions to make the best decisions of how to then invest that money in the local ecosystems, both in terms of R&D, innovation, and of course, the skills system to support. And I think, Bob, you made that point extremely well. So in summary, where we lack and we need more focus is on scale and is on strategy and policy coordination. And I would also recommend that what we do is we do just have another look at where clusters and super clusters of innovation have really created prosperity, of where that's been successful. Bob, you mentioned the example of East Germany, and East Germany is definitely one of those examples, but there are other good ones that we can see as to how we can learn from those and how we can do more of those in our leveling up regions. Thank you.
Thank you.